Hey, this is Buck Dharma of Blue Oyster Cult, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
Stretch! You can put it on the board! Yes!
Welcome to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster, Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP Television. Today's show is brought to you by UppercutChops.com. Check out their tasty selection of all natural dry-aged USDA Prime Angus and Wagyu steaks and chops. Wait till you taste their best-in-class New York steaks, the filet mignon, and of course, the king of all, those gigantic cowboy cut and tomahawk cut ribeyes. Best I've ever had, probably be the best you ever have as well. Check them out at UppercutChops.com. That's UppercutChops.com. Or give them a call, find out what's for dinner, 714-948-0100, 714-948-0100. Again, 714-948-0100 for UppercutChops.com. All right, and a big welcome to everybody listening in on our CBS, NBC, and Fox Sports affiliates and independents from coast to coast. Everybody watching on Cox, Comcast, Spectrum, Frontier, Oceanic, Time Warner, Spectrum, Wild Charter, and independent cable affiliates in select markets. Thanks for joining us there, as well as hotel television in about 500,000 rooms or so, where applicable as well. Also, Chicago Food Favorites. Thanks for joining in on Chicago Food Favorites, a fun group on Facebook. Talk about your favorite food, your favorite restaurants, your favorite recipes. Make some friends, have some fun. Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook. All right, also, our friends over at Vacation Buddies are giving away a couple of nights right here in Las Vegas, Orlando, Florida, or in Branson, Missouri, if you can answer a simple trivia question. And let's see if you know the answer. Which one of these NFL teams relocated from California to Las Vegas? Is it the Rams, A, the Chargers, B, or the Raiders, C? If you know the answer, call 888-576-5777, 888-576-5777. Again, 888-576-5777. Vacation Buddies is not affiliated with this station, but they want to give you a couple of nights right here in Vegas, Orlando, Florida, or in Branson, Missouri, if you know the answer to that very simple trivia question. If so, call 888-576-5777 and pick up a couple of nights here in Vegas, Orlando, or Branson, Missouri. Okay, so it's Major League Baseball. It's the winter meetings. Boy, there's a lot going on in baseball. People say, well, you know, football's the only 365 days a year sport. I don't think so. I had this conversation with a two-time Super Bowl champion recently. In fact, it was our longtime friend, Tyrone Poole, two-time Super Bowl champion and American Ninja Warrior. And we were talking about, well, he says, well, football is the only sport that goes on year-round with everything going on. I said, oh, no, I don't think so. He goes, well, you know, we've got all these things from the combine to this, that, and the other. I said, listen, baseball, you go all the way from spring training in February all the way to essentially the last day of October, might even be the first day of November. And by the way, then you've got fall ball, Arizona Fall League. Then you've got winter ball. You've got all kinds of things going on. You've got games going on with a lot of big league players throughout the Caribbean League, in the Mexican League, down in South America as well, over in Japan as well, in Korea. Listen, baseball is going on everywhere, 365 days. And talk about the big show right now. Well, guess what? The winter meetings are going on in Orlando, Florida right now, and all hell is about to break loose. The bigger question is, where's the first domino going to come from? Who's the first one to fall, meaning as far as the free agents go? I mean, look, there's a lot going on. And I like the fact that Tiger said, look, even Skubal is not untouchable. Everybody on the roster is available. And that comes from the Detroit Tigers president. You know, when you think about somebody coming out and saying that even your Cy Young Award winner is available, that's shocking to a lot of people. And I mean, when you look at what Skubal did, I mean, look, this guy is arguably the best pitcher in baseball today. I mean, he just got it. Some guys got it, some guys don't. This guy's got it. And it doesn't really matter even what Dave Dombrowski says, right? So he is the former Tigers president, Dave Dombrowski. He used to rarely label players as untouchable, even as he built a perennial contender, even if he has a superstar player. It doesn't matter. None of that matters. You know what matters? Everybody is available. And I love that. And so, look, whether it's a superstar or not, another team might offer him 2 potential superstars in return, essentially making him an offer he couldn't refuse. And those are the ones that I like because that really can shape a team. Think about this. Think about when the Angels could have traded Mike Trout early in his career. They could have got back a whole team for him. Now, you would think that Artie Moreno would have learned his lesson, but no, of course not. No, Artie did not learn a lesson because guess what? He had the same opportunity with Ohtani. All he had to do was a sign and trade, but instead, now Artie says, nah, I'm just going to let him go ahead and go, and we don't really care. We don't need him here, now do we? And that, I think a lot of people in the baseball world were shocked, including myself. I'm certainly not a fan of the Angels, and I feel bad for Perry Minasian because he's got his hands tied and he can't do anything. And so Perry ends up looking like the bad guy as the GM, which is not fair. But ultimately, what's going to happen? Well, let's go now to the Detroit Tigers. So the Tigers says, well, hey, Scott Harris, this guy is in his 4th season as the Tigers president. And yeah, one that could be littered with screwball trade rumors and whatnot. But here's the reality on screwball. Look, this guy's ERA last season, 2.30, a sparkling ERA, only behind, if I'm not mistaken, Paul Skeens. And that's pretty good company. 387 innings pitched since the start of 2024. So we're talking the last 2 seasons. Last 2 seasons, ERA of 2.3, 387 innings pitched, and that's divided by 2. So that's still almost 200 innings per year. That's pretty damn good. Averaging 234 strikeouts a season. His whip, walks and hits per innings pitch, is under 1, first in Major League Baseball, just like strikeouts. Opponents on base, 558, that's second. And his F-WAR is 12.6. It takes 12 players, or basically somebody 12 times at the same level of him, to replace this guy. That's how good Screwball is. And so if Scott Harris says he's available, well, he's looking for essentially a whole new team haul back. And that's really what it's going to take. But then again, it's becoming apparent that, hey, that there's no problem with the idea of making him available for trade. And I guess that's how you really got to look at it. So ultimately, it doesn't mean that Screwball's Tigers tenure is going another direction. He's not going to go somewhere else necessarily. It's just, Harris is saying, look, everyone is available. And if it doesn't mean that they won't entertain the idea of Screwball pitching anywhere in 2026, I think you're out of your mind. Because, hey, listen, if they can get back 2 All-Stars and shave money off a salary, and you got to remember, the bigger question comes back down to position players, and it comes back down to Screwball pitches once a week. And that's how you got to look at it. He plays once a week. And if you get positions player backs that are playing 5-6 games a week, now you're getting more bang for your buck. People say, well, pitching is a commodity. I know, I'm a former pitcher, and I can tell you, I get it. But there's a long time for rest and repair, and there's a lot going on in the grand scheme of things. And so, yes, it doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to go away. And yeah, it's a tricky discussion in the first place to even bring him up during the winter meetings, but why not? If you don't really have anybody to trade per se, what you want to do is you want to stir the pot a little bit and see what's out there, because certain teams are desperate. Certain teams are going to say, you know what? Maybe we could go and try to hit a home run. And let's think of teams like the Cincinnati Reds. The Reds right now have good pitching. They don't have great pitching. They went and, I'm befuddled at the fact that they signed Pagan for a 2-year deal, where I don't know how many blown saves he had, but I had seen him go on and off fantasy baseball rosters left, right, and center because of poor performance. And Pagan, as I have seen him, in my opinion, I wouldn't take that guy. I wouldn't trade a broken Coke machine for him. However, somehow in the Cincinnati Reds brain trust, or should I say lack of brain trust, those guys, they decided that Pagan was worth a 2-year deal. I don't even get it. I don't think he's worth a 2-week deal. Whatever the case. Idiocy, in my opinion, from the Cincinnati Reds. Just when you think you're going the right direction, 2 steps forward, 3 steps backwards. That's how it works over there, apparently. Now the big question is, what are they going to do beyond that? Nonetheless, but you take a team like the Reds. The Reds have 2 golden pieces of the franchise. Would the Reds trade Hunter Green away? I don't know. Would they trade him? I mean, he's got one of the golden arms in baseball. Or would they do the unthinkable and trade Ellie De La Cruz, the most exciting player in baseball? Well, that's the kind of conversation we're having here about the Detroit Tigers. Would they trade Tarek Skubal? I don't know, but what it does is it sure makes people scratch their head and say, wow, if we could add Skubal, listen, we've got a ton of prospects, and those prospects could be turned into something else. So you could see a deal from a team. They would go and turn their prospects into other players that maybe the Detroit Tigers are looking for, just so they could trade those to get Skubal. Sometimes you got to go sideways to go forward. That's what I'm thinking that could potentially happen. It's a pretty interesting discussion. We're going to come back with the Detroit Tigers and this Skubal situation. It seems to be a little bit of a screwball situation. Anyway, back here in just a few moments. Don't go anywhere. Lots more to come.
Attention business owners, you and your customers are listening to this right now. Face it, every business needs customers, even yours. The Sports Circus is a primetime nationally syndicated program that's carried on ABC, NBC, CNBC, and Westwood One News affiliates, plus CBS, Fox, and NBC sports affiliates across North America, with coverage from Hawaii to New York. Also, the Sports Circus is available to the 180 million subscribers on iHeartRadio, and the Sports Circus gets about 4 million website visitors per month, which could click through your website and bring sales. The Sports Circus provides great content featuring celebrity guests from sports and entertainment to our audience every weekday, which your company could greatly benefit from by increasing your visibility, foot traffic, eyeballs to your website, and calls from potential customers. Call us right now at
714-948-0100. Again, 714-948-0100.
Or email us at info@thesportscircus.com. That's info@thesportscircus.com. Drive your sales today by advertising with the Sports Circus.
Do you know someone with a drug or alcohol problem? Get help right now. Insurance may cover everything. Stop the drug and alcohol nightmare. Are drug and alcohol problems hitting you too close to home? Get help right now. Insurance may cover everything.
800-831-1560. 800-831-1560. 800-831-1560. That's 800-831-1560.
Why pay retail for your next car? Just visit beepinautos.com to find your new-to-you car or truck. They find cars for people, even when cars are hard to find. So just go to beepinautos.com and click on Find Me a Car, and they find your perfect car on the wholesale market. beepinautos.com. They're a car concierge. beepinautos.com. BEEPIN autos.com. beepinautos.com. Now you have a friend in the car business when you need it most. Trusted since 2013. Just click Find Me a Car at beepinautos.com.
That's the sound of sizzling, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks from UpperCutChops.com. Their best-in-class filet mignons, New York steaks, and the king of all steaks, the tomahawk and cowboy cut ribeyes are the best in the business. Even their Prime Wagyu burgers will likely be the best you've ever had. Browse the full selection of steaks and chops at UpperCutChops.com from the comfort of your home or on your mobile device. UpperCutChops.com delivers all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks and chops directly to your door, without the hassle of going to the grocery store and fight crowds to pick from a small selection of average and best meats with injected steroids, fillers, and coloring added to look good. Find out what's for dinner at UpperCutChops.com or call 714-948-0100. 714-948-0100. 714-948-0100. Or make your selection directly at UpperCutChops.com.
Sports Circus. I'm Roy Firestone. Now it's time to throw it back to Sal.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio. That's AAMP Television. This segment brought to you in part by our friends over at the College of Southern Nevada Athletics. Check them out at csncoyotes.com for upcoming games and events. That's the College of Southern Nevada Athletics, csncoyotes.com. Folks, make sure to check them out. They've been with us since the very beginning, back in 2016. They get the super applause. All right, and everybody else that gets the applause, those waking up with us over in Atlanta on 99.1 FM WDJY, right down the road in Auburn, Alabama, actually stretching from Columbus, Georgia, all the way to Montgomery. Everybody listening in and driving home on WAUD, listening in on WAUD, that's home of the Atlanta Braves. Thanks for joining us there, up and down the Midwest, all the way out to the West Coast. Those driving up and down Interstate 15 on Highway Country Radio. You can listen to us between Las Vegas and LA, the greater LA market. You can listen to us on 101.5 FM and 107.3 FM. That's home of the Vegas Golden Knights, the Raiders, and the Sports Circus at 7 p.m. And a big hello to our friends over in Honolulu, CBS Sports 1500 KHKA. That's home of the Yankees, 49ers, and Alabama Crimson Tide. And also, everybody listening in or watching on Cox, Comcast, Spectrum, Frontier, Oceanic, Time Warner, Spectrum, Wild Charter, and independent cable affiliates in select markets, Hotel TV, Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook as well. Check that group out, folks. Fun group. Talk about your favorite foods, favorite restaurants, favorite recipes. Make some friends, have some fun. Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook. All right. Oh, by the way, in case you missed it at the top of the show, there was a giveaway for a couple of nights right here in Las Vegas, Branson, Missouri, or Orlando, Florida, if you know the answer to a simple trivia question. And if you're just tuning in now, we're going to go ahead and restate the question. And if you know the answer, call the number right afterwards. Which of these three teams, NFL teams, relocated to Las Vegas? Was it the Rams? A. Was it the Chargers? B. Or was it the Raiders? C. If you know the answer, call 888-576-5777, 888-576-5777, 888-576-5777. Vacation Buddies is not affiliated with the station, but they want to give you a couple of nights right here in Vegas, Branson, Missouri, or Orlando, Florida. So call that number if you know the answer and you want a couple of nights on Vacation Buddies. All right, so we left off talking about Tarek Skubal and the Detroit Tigers, and the Tigers basically said, hey, look, there's nobody that is untouchable. And Mr. Harris says that, so that's how it is. Now, maybe they're not looking for anybody. So that's another question. And you say, well, what really are the Detroit Tigers seeking? I mean, look, you could say, okay, fine, Gleyber Torres was on base a lot for Detroit this past season. His on-base percentage was, about 358? And he'll be back next year after accepting the qualifying offer. So the Tigers also have some high-end prospects who will soon be in the bigs, such as their shortstop. And there's another guy, that's an outfielder, Max Clark, by the way. So Kevin, shortstop, Max, outfielder, etc. But if they keep Tarek Skubal, which most rival evaluators believe they will do, however, you never know, in an effort to contend next season before he walks away as a free agent, like the Ohtani thing that I just mentioned in the last segment. Well, they desperately need another big bat, someone who can produce in the number 3, 4, or 5 spot in Detroit's lineup and complement Riley Green and Kerry Carpenter. So, Alex Bregman would seem to be a nice fit, also a great glove at third base, Gold Glover, just as he would have been last winter, but they didn't make that deal. No, he ended up going to Boston instead. When the Tigers came close to signing him, it just wasn't enough. So even a guy like Bo Bichette would also be ideal, but signing him would be very expensive, more than the Tigers might be willing to pay to bring in someone who would project as a second baseman or third baseman in the future, and Detroit would have to use some of its payroll flexibility. Now, the only other players the Tigers have under contract for 27 and beyond are Colt Keith, youngster, and Javi Baez. Look, Javi Baez, you got to get rid of this guy. I think it's a colossal waste of money. His deal expires after the 27 season. So if you can move Baez, get somebody to eat his salary, you might be able to make a play for Kyle Schwarber, because Kyle is from nearby Ohio. It's not too terribly far from home. And Kyle's already won a World Series. It's not like he needs to go out and get another ring, because he's won one on the Northsiders in Chicago. So, I mean, again, Kyle is another discussion we're going to get into maybe in a little bit, because I know the ideal place for Kyle Schwarber would be Cincinnati. But Cincinnati, I mean, you look at Cincinnati, you say, well, what's the deal with them? Okay, their projected payroll is about $97 million, which 241 is where the luxury tax starts. That gets really expensive really quick. However, they've got a ton of room. The problem is the Reds, just like the Cincinnati Bengals, it's business, business, business. There's no fan fulfillment. It's just, how does it affect the bottom line? It's almost as if, I'm not going to say they don't, it's almost as if they just don't seem to give a damn about the product on the field. Just try to win. Try to do what you can. And maybe something good will come out of it. So we look at the Detroit Tigers. Now, the Tigers, they really, look, nobody has a strict salary cap. I'm going to get to that. In fact, let me just explain that to you right away, in case you don't know. So actually, it's a luxury tax. So it's, I guess they use a euphemism for competitive balance, whatever. So look, that particular tax penalizes wealthy teams for excessive players, or excessive payroll, I should say, by making them pay, this is according to SpotTrack, then pay a tax on spending above a threshold. So encouraging more level playing field for smaller market teams. Penalties escalate with consecutive years of overspending, leading to higher tax rates and potential draft pick losses, with funds redistributed to non-tax paying teams, or used for other league purposes, kind of like a slush fund, I guess. So here's really how it works. There's a threshold is, I think it's going to be $241 million. All right, that's for your annual payroll. So there's a taxable amount. If the team's payroll exceeds the threshold, they pay a percentage on that tax is a percentage on the overage. So escalating rates. So the tax rate increases significantly for repeat offenders, kind of like the Dodgers. And of course, teams exceeding the threshold for multiple consecutive years. And there's a surcharge. So the higher surcharge applies for exceeding additional levels of the base threshold, for example, 20 million, 40 million, 60 million over, etc. Now, teams exceeding the threshold by large margins, over 40 million, can also lose a draft pick with the pick moved back in the draft order as well. So how about an example? So you think about the first offense, all right? Maybe you're 20 to 50% over. Second offense, you're 30 to 62% on your overage. Your third offense, you're 50 to 90% on your overage. Okay, so for example, if you're 100 million over, well, that's an extra $90 million that you have to pay in a tax. Imagine that. That's on the overage. And of course, it discourages spending. That's kind of the idea. It supports these smaller market teams like the Reds, for example, and the Kansas City Royals, and even the Detroit Tigers, smaller market teams, and the Tampa Bay Rays. So there's also a soft cap. So unlike a hard salary cap, NBA, NFL, for example, it's a tax allowing wealthy teams to exceed the threshold if they're willing to pay the penalties. And the big part about this, you got to realize teams strategically manage their payroll to stay under the threshold or minimize the penalties, but repeat offenses make it increasingly costly to impact their ability and to sign talent. And so that's really the big deal with this. Why does this matter? I'll tell you why. Because you take teams like the Dodgers, they constantly spend over. Or let's say the New York Mets, they just seem to have endless pockets. Mr. Cohn has mad money, I believe. I think he's an art guy. Nonetheless, let's look at the Detroit Tigers for a second. The Tigers, they're at, I guess their payroll is about $145 million from 2025 thereabouts. And their 2026 projected should be about $25 million less. So the Tigers are going to have room for a big bat. And so when I was talking to you earlier about the Detroit Tigers, what they could do, and they could take a guy like Schwarber, because bringing in a big bat, maybe like a Schwarber, is one thing, because he's going to probably command a large number, and that would take up a significant amount of their payroll before they start hitting luxury tax status. But do they want to turn the corner and get past, for example, the Cleveland Guardians? Do they want to separate themselves from the Guardians is the question. How do you do that? Well, I'll tell you how you do it. You bring in the pieces you need. You already have a pretty good manager over there. And so you ask yourself, what does Cleveland do? It doesn't matter what Cleveland does. This is about Detroit. And so they've got, looks like about $100+ million. If they can move Javi Baez, they could really go out and get a bat or two. Javi Baez is hitting 230, 240. He's not the same Javi Baez from the Northsiders in Chicago. Not at all. Jack Flaherty has a player option for 26. Gleyber Torres is signed through 26. Colt Keith, multi-year deal. Look, the Tigers are really strong as far as money goes. They've got a lot of room to maneuver, unlike a lot of other teams. So we'll see what the Tigers do. We're going to talk about some other clubs in just a few minutes here on The Circus. Don't go anywhere. Lots more to come.
Show me the money!
If I was your mother and you had a drug problem, I'd grab you by the ear and make you call and get help. You can be in treatment tomorrow and start to get clean in 7 days. Follow Mom's advice and call the Detox and Treatment Helpline now. Write this number down.
800-814-8628. 800-814-8628. 800-814-8628. That's 800-814-8628.
Are you or someone you love struggling with an addiction to drugs or alcohol and want to be set free from the chains of addiction? Then call Addiction Helpline America right now to get the help you need. From drug and alcohol addiction to dual diagnosis treatment, we provide a confidential helpline to help people like you get sober and live happy, substance-free lives.
Treatment helped me get my life back. I was so addicted, the only person I could focus on was myself and what I needed. I hit rock bottom and lost everything. Through treatment, I was able to overcome those demons and focus on my family again.
I used until I overdosed and almost died. That was the end of the road for me. After seeking treatment, I now have hope. I learned skills that help me deal with life on life's terms.
800-426-4994. 800-426-4994. 800-426-4994. That's 800-426-4994.
Why pay retail for your next car? Just visit beepinautos.com to find your new-to-you car or truck. They find cars for people, even when cars are hard to find. So just go to beepinautos.com and click on Find Me a Car, and they find your perfect car on the wholesale market. Beepinautos.com. They're a car concierge. Beepinautos.com. BEEPIN autos.com. Beepinautos.com. Now you have a friend in the car business when you need it most. Trusted since 2013. Just click Find Me a Car at beepinautos.com.
Investors, keep listening to learn how to get your free gold report. A currency crisis is upon us. The U.S. dollar has been the world's reserve currency for over 50 years, but that is changing. It's time to protect your retirement. Decades of reckless borrowing and spending have critically weakened the dollar. The U.S. has become the world's biggest debtor with over $35 trillion in debt. Plus, the dollar's become weaponized. Countries are dumping it. Investors who wait until it's too late could lose big. There is one safe haven: gold. Diversify your portfolio with a physical asset they can't take away. Call the Reagan Gold Group right now and ask for your free gold guide. Here's our number:
800-876-7041. 800-876-7041. 800-876-7041. That's 800-876-7041.
Hey everyone, Dave Jackson here, ESPN rules analyst on ESPN Hockey, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster, Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP television. Folks, make sure to check out thesportscircus.com for upcoming guests, prior guests, recorded shows, which could be found on Apple, Amazon, Audible, Spotify, Pandora, iHeart, Stitcher, YouTube, Deezer, plus a whole bunch of others. Also, make sure to check out the partners page. Lots of great partners over there. And one of our favorites is Al's #1 Italian Beef, 1079 West Taylor Street in Chicago's Little Italy. That's 1079 West Taylor Street in Chicago's Little Italy. And if you can't make it over there for some great food, check them out at alsbeef.com. That's alsbeef.com. They are the creators of the famous Italian beef sandwich 118 years ago. It was first created, and Al's #1 Italian Beef first opened up in 1938, many years later. But guess what? They are the original. It's the best in the business. And don't try to compare it to that awful Philly cheesesteak sandwich, because it is a very, very different animal. That's real cooking with the Italian beef sandwich versus frying, slapping on a poor grate of beef on a flat top with some cheese whiz and some vegetables, slap it on a bun and send you on your way. Oh, hell no. It's a very different animal. Check it out, alsbeef.com. You can read all about it. And believe me, it is probably the best sandwich you'll probably ever have. That's my opinion, and I'm sticking to it. alsbeef.com. All right, welcome back to everybody. You know who you are, TV, radio, and so forth. So, nonetheless, we think about the big names out there and then the teams with the big wants and whatnot. Well, guess what? How about the Pittsburgh Pirates taking a very big swing with an offer right out the gate? That's right. Right out of the winter meetings comes the Pittsburgh Pirates. That's right. The Pirates need a bat. They need a lot of bats. And it looks like they're taking a big swing to get one. In fact, somebody close to the Sports Circus and also close to MLB had stated that the Pirates have made an offer to Kyle Schwarber. Now, we were talking about Kyle before in the last segment. Now, according to a particular report, now actually everyone seems to have it now, and even, well, The Athletic has this one, MLB.com has, everyone's got it now. We knew this one, it was going to happen probably about 3 or 4 days ago. Well, guess what? It was confirmed, and Schwarber was made an offer by the Pittsburgh Pirates. That's right. And it was a 4-year, about $100 million. Now, in my opinion, that is probably about $10 million a year less minimum than where Kyle's going to be. I don't think he's going to sign anywhere for $25 million a year. Kyle's going to probably command 35 plus. He may take a hometown discount for the Cincinnati Reds, as I was told by an anonymous source. Nonetheless, such a deal, if accepted, would obliterate, according to MLB.com, the franchise's record for the largest free agent contract, which is 3 years, $39 million for Francisco Lindor back in 2014. Imagine that one. Imagine if they kept Francisco Lindor. Could be a very different team. Nonetheless, the appeal of Schwarber is obvious, so the Pirates need to upgrade their offense, and Schwarber is the best hitter on the market. And he's not the best per average hitter. No, this guy hits them when it matters. So he's going to hit you 220, 230, maybe even up to 235. But he'll get you the home runs when you need it. He'll drive the runs in when you need them as well. So, yeah, he also was runner-up for the NL MVP, just in case you're keeping score, with his 56 homers and 132 RBIs. He did hit 240, slash 240, 365, 563, right? Good for a career best, 150 OPS plus. But the Pirates finished in last in the majors this past season in many key categories on the offense. Obviously, runs scored, home runs, OPS, they're all in the toilet. And they have some pressing issues on the need side for the offense as well, like a third baseman and an outfielder. So adding a DH might not be the ideal positional upgrade, which in my opinion, it really isn't. But it's hard to argue with making an offer to the best hitter on the market. Now, he is probably the best hitter when it comes to productivity on the market. But you could argue that there are other hitters available. We're going to go through those in just a little bit. But Schwarber is one hell of a get if they can get him. I still think he belongs with the Reds. But you got to also think about the manager. So Don Kelly's like, well, hey, we all know how much 2026 means and a lot of the discussions going around how we're building towards that. I mean, look, they've got to make a commitment, a real commitment to Paul Skeens. Otherwise, Paul's going to walk. And if you don't show Paul Skeens that you're willing to give this guy a shot, he is the best pitcher in baseball. And if you don't have a rookie Paul Skeens card, you better get one. They just keep going up and up in value. But the reality is, if you don't show him commitment, he's going to go. It's real simple. It was the same kind of thing in Anaheim. Well, Mike Trout wasn't really showing any commitment after Ohtani had left. I wouldn't be surprised if Mike Trout goes away too. He really should. Give him a shot in the twilight of his career to go get a chance to go out and win. And he actually should go sign with Philly so he can get to go back home. Nonetheless, it doesn't matter. This is a Schwarber talk. And he is the biggest target that the Pirates have been linked to so far in the offseason. I just don't think it's going to happen. I mean, look, they were also connected to the Josh Naylor deal, and that would have been a real close commute from Cleveland over to Pittsburgh. But guess what? Naylor went to Arizona. And then, well, as I see it, Naylor ended up where? He ended up in Seattle on a very good Seattle squad. So you think about, what do the Pirates have to offer? And you have to ask yourself, what is it? It's just basically money, because they don't have the personnel to excite a player to come over to play in Pittsburgh, in my opinion. So what do? Do they go out and get Framber Valdez? I mean, look, he met with 3 teams recently, and one of them was not the Detroit Tigers. Framber Valdez met with the Giants. He's met with Zach Manassian, the New York Mets, and the Orioles at the GM meetings. So look, the Giants, Mets, and Orioles met with him at last month's meeting, with Dylan Cease, of course, off the board, signing with the Blue Jays. Valdez, really, who's got a 3.36 ERA and 1,000-plus innings, almost 1,100 innings, has a good argument to be the top available starting pitcher right now. So he's going to get some money. Remember, Dylan Cease just signed a gigantic deal in Toronto. Toronto basically had the World Series won, but they lost it in the 9th inning. That's right, with 1 out in the 9th. They lost the World Series. So I wouldn't say the Dodgers won it. I'd say the Blue Jays lost it. In the same way the Indians, the Cleveland Indians, lost to the stupid Cubs, in my opinion. I call them that because I can. It's my opinion. Sorry. If you don't like it, too bad. Anyway, the reality is the Indians lost the World Series. They didn't. They beat themselves in the same way the Blue Jays beat themselves. So what they do? Well, we're not going to have a whole lot of pressure on Trey Yasevich, the youngster, because he is a good one. But what we're going to do is we're going to go out and get ourselves a number 1, because that's what Dylan Cease is, truly a number 1. And we're going to take a lot of pressure off Trey Yasevich. So I think that was a brilliant move by the Toronto Blue Jays. But moving forward here, Framber Valdez is one of those guys that he really is probably the best starting pitcher available right now. And so where else could he possibly go? Look, there's a lot of, I guess there's a lot of discussion about, well, the Giants, look, they've really targeted lower price free agents rather than the big lefties like Valdez and Ranger Suarez, or even the Japanese righty Imai. So you have to think about, look, the Giants are active right now on multiple free agent starters. They're really looking to see what's out there. And let's face it, Zach Manassian's in a really good position to land an upper-tier free agent. And the Giants could also be a player in the trade market with, let's face it, Bryce Eldridge potentially being an option in a trade. So yeah, that's a real thing. And so it's also worth really questioning whether the Mets will give Valdez or any of the top starting pitchers on the market that kind of money. Remember, they just signed Juan Soto to some crazy money last year. So do they just have the bottomless pit, and do they want to pay the big luxury tax? I don't know. So think about go back to the Kyle Schwarber thing. All right, who wants to pay him? Who's going to pay him? What's going to happen with the Mets? I mean, look, Schwarber is still linked to the Mets because you never know what's going to happen with Pete Alonso, right? But Valdez and Schwarber are probably the 2 top free agents right now. But the Cubs are showing interest, for example, in that Japanese pitcher, Imai. Because remember, Shota took the qualifying offer for $22 million, so they've got him locked up for another year. And I mean, could the Cubs add another Japanese star to the roster? You never know. They have Seiya Suzuki. They've got Shota. Why not bring Imai in as well? We're going to turn him into the Japanese Baseball League, Chicago Cubs, I suppose. I don't know, but they've expressed a lot of interest in this guy. And look, this Imai is 27 years of age, and he'll be 28 next month. And, I mean, he's kind of mid-career at this point. But the Cubs have been linked to basically everybody, even Zach Gallen and Michael King. So it stands to reason they could be willing to pursue Imai, who is likely due for a contract over $100 million, since Kyle Tucker probably won't return to the Cubs, which is what an enormous mistake that is by the Cubs. It's crazy. You can't not let him walk. Cannot let him walk. And the same thing even with the Mets with Pete Alonso. He is linked to a lot of deals with the Red Sox and the Orioles. So the Mets cannot let him walk. He started off as a Met. He should retire as a Met. He's one of those guys. Back here in a few minutes on the Circus, more baseball. Lots more to come. Don't go anywhere.
That's the sound of sizzling, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks from UpperCutChops.com. Their best-in-class filet mignons, New York steaks, and the king of all steaks, the tomahawk and cowboy cut ribeyes are the best in the business. Even their Prime Wagyu burgers will likely be the best you've ever had. Browse the full selection of steaks and chops at UpperCutChops.com from the comfort of your home or on your mobile device. UpperCutChops.com delivers all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks and chops directly to your door, without the hassle of going to the grocery store and fight crowds to pick from a small selection of average at best meats with injected steroids, fillers, and coloring added to look good. Find out what's for dinner at UpperCutChops.com or call 714-948-0100. 714-948-0100. 714-948-0100. Or make your selection directly at UpperCutChops.com.
Do you own a timeshare? Well, face the facts. You made a mistake. You made a bad purchase. A timeshare is not an investment. It's a money pit that continues forever. If you use your timeshare, that's great. But if you don't, and you want to legally get out of your contract, call my friends right now at the Timeshare Exit Hotline. They're an experienced team of lawyers who help good people like you get out of a timeshare contract that they just don't want. Don't throw away your money on maintenance fees. Use it for things you really want. We can help you end your timeshare contract and stop the money drain immediately. If you're ready to move on with your timeshare, call our team right now.
Cancel your timeshare now with a free call. 800-298-3173. 800-298-3173. 800-298-3173. That's 800-298-3173.
Owning great property is almost impossible these days. At least, that's what people keep saying. They don't know about National Premier Properties. Do you have $350 or a credit card? You can own a great piece of property in a resort community. National Premier Properties has over 51 years of experience helping people just like you purchase amazing properties across the U.S. and in Mexico, Canada, the Bahamas. It takes less than 5 minutes to turn your dream into reality. Visit nationalpremierproperties.com and make it happen now.
Why pay retail for your next car? Just visit beepinautos.com to find your new-to-you car or truck. They find cars for people, even when cars are hard to find. So just go to beepinautos.com and click on Find Me a Car, and they find your perfect car on the wholesale market. Beepinautos.com. They're a car concierge. Beepinautos.com. BEEPIN autos.com. Beepinautos.com. Now you have a friend in the car business when you need it most. Trusted since 2013. Just click Find Me a Car at beepinautos.com.
Hey everybody, this is Brian Urlacher. Welcome back to the Sports Circus.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP Television. Folks, make sure you check out the store at thesportscircus.com. Lots of great gift ideas there. Hats, hoodies, t-shirts, coats, sweatpants, pillows, blankets, coffee mugs, travel mugs, mouse pads, all kinds of great stuff with these clever Sports Circus logo embroidered on them. Some are silk screened if it's not a clothing item, but guess what, folks? All high quality American-made products. Yes, compliments of the Sports Circus. And guess what? Pick up 10% off if you mention my name, Ringmaster Sal, on all your gift items purchased. Nice round of applause for the circus. All right. A shameless plug, of course, for the circus. Welcome back to everybody on TV and radio. Pick your favorite affiliate. We're there. You can't get away from us. And guess what? We're going to move on with baseball, and we're continuing with the winter meetings and the team needs and so forth. And listen, the contending teams, they all have needs. How about the Phillies? So if the Phillies' everyday lineup, it's got some winter potholes, I believe. And there's been a broad assumption around the industry that Schwarber will return to the Phillies because, well, they can't afford to let him go. Not to sign with him would be unthinkable given what he's provided in stability. He plays 162 games, 56 homers, 264 times on base via hit, walk, or hit by a pitch, and, of course, big clubhouse presence. But he's not under contract yet, and neither is JT Realmuto, the leader of the pitching staff. So two big pieces of the Phillies puzzle could fall. I really believe that Schwarber is going to go on his way. But anyway, the Phillies also need an outfielder upgrade in Castellanos. So what's going to happen there? Look, their pitching is actually in decent shape thanks to Sanchez and company in a winter which everyone is talking about pitching. But for the team that's theoretically in the window to win, their window hasn't closed yet. The Phillies have a lot of work to do, so we'll see what happens there. Look, the New York Mets, they need an ace. And they did sign Devin Williams as the closer idea. And, of course, a trade for Marcus Semien are just the first couple of deals that they've made. However, they need an ace. So Dylan Cease really could have gone there. So does Framber Valdez, who seems to be the best pitcher on the free agent market, or do they make a trade? Maybe they make a trade. Nick Pavetta's available. He's not an ace, but Nick Pavetta will eat some innings after a terrible season in Boston. He comes back to San Diego, goes down to San Diego, and really pitches his heart out. So Nick Pavetta's looking pretty good. He just pitched himself. He'll pitch himself into a real good contract here coming up, and I think he's going to be signed somewhere during the winter meetings. But look, on one hand, the Mets' decision to triage their late season collapse with the rookie pitching trio of McClain, Tong, and Sproat, it was understandable, but in that moment, they were the best options available. So on the other hand, that was one of the highest spending teams that tried. This underscored just how the Mets were and still are in front of their rotation. So look, these guys need some help. So what are they going to do? Do they go out and try to make some crazy deal with Tarek Skubal? That's the one team that has the money to throw at the Detroit Tigers, and they've got players. They've got all-star players. They've got, I guess they've got seemingly endless pockets. So the Mets are one team that I could think of that could go out and they could really take Skubal, and they need him. So think about this. I mean, I think Skubal for 2026 is going to be, if you want a deal, it's going to be around $400 million. It's going to be somewhere around there. And the Mets could also, who I actually like better, because he eats a ton more. He just eats a lot of innings. And the Minnesota Twins are basically going to sell everything. And Joe Ryan, I believe, is the best pitcher that's out there right now. I think he's better than Valdez. I think Joe Ryan is the guy that everybody really wants, but everybody's saying that Framber Valdez is the guy now. Joe Ryan really, I believe, is the guy. It doesn't matter. Either way, the Mets need somebody. What about the Royals? The Royals need somebody in the outfield. I would argue even two outfielders. And let's face it, that these guys, their WAR, wins against replacement numbers, they're near the bottom of the league. The Royals really are, let's put it this way, they're 9.4 in F-WAR, and Aaron Judge alone is 10.1. That gives you an idea how badly the Royals need outfielders. So they're going to be out hunting right away. And who are they going to deal? I don't know. Are they going to deal off Brady Singer, Jonathan India? Who knows? I don't think the Royals have a whole lot of room. They're going to have to go spend a bunch of money. That's how they're going to fix their outfield. How about the Braves? They need shortstop production. The Braves, they have all kinds of injuries and whatnot. And let's face it, maybe the Braves already acquired the player who will take the bulk of the playing time at short with the trade for Dubon. Maybe that's the guy. Of course, maybe they'll try to cover another position with a combination of players rather than chase a star shortstop. But Atlanta needs significantly more position than it got in 2025 with a less than 1 wins above replacement, which was tied for 28th in Major League Baseball. And the bar for potential improvement is low, but if the Braves are going to bounce back from their frustrating 76-win season from last year, they need much, much, much better production at the shortstop position. And actually, Bo Bichette might be the best available free agent. Can you imagine you've got Bo Bichette and Bobby Witt Jr. on the one side of the infield? Even if they put Bichette at second base, look how strong you are up the middle now. And Bichette can hit. So the bigger question is, what are the Royals going to do? And you ask yourself, what are the Braves going to do? But the Braves probably need Bichette a little bit more. That's the bigger thing. And look, you got to realize that the players that left, from Swanson to Max Fried to Freddie Freeman, look, they were all Atlanta Braves. And guess what? Freddie Freeman's won a couple World Series over in L.A. since leaving. Max Fried is up with the New York Yankees. He's competitive every year. The Yankees are competitive every year. What about the Red Sox? They need somebody on the corner that's going to mash. And maybe that's Kyle Schwarber. Maybe Schwarber at first base. You never know. I mean, he is kind of a liability with a glove in his hand. But then again, Alex Bregman on one corner, Kyle Schwarber on the other. That's really good offensive production. And let's face it, you got a guy that can play first base if you need him. So what's going to happen with the Red Sox? I don't know. How about the Orioles? The Orioles, boy, you think they're going to hit the reset button again. And now the question is, what are they going to chase? Are they going to chase pitching? Probably. Look, they missed out on the Garrett Crochet sweepstakes last year, and the Orioles matched up better with the White Sox than any other team. But it just didn't work out. It didn't matter. So it was the Red Sox. So he just basically changed his socks in from white to red. But now Baltimore is trying to regain its footage and be competitive in a very tough American League East. And the Orioles finally invested a multi-year deal by signing, I don't know if Ryan Helsley is the guy. They signed a 2-year deal for this guy as a closer. They already have Bautista over there. If he's healthy, you don't need another closer. I think that was, in my opinion, a waste of money. And if they're going to spend more money on other players, like Gunnar Henderson's loyalty may be limited. And spending more time with the Orioles, you never know. Orioles have Trevor Rogers, Kyle Bradish, Dean Kremer, Tyler Wells, Cade Povich. Their rotation is extraordinarily mediocre. Royals need help. The Orioles need help. The Tigers need some help. That's right. The Red Sox need help. The Braves need help. And yes, even the Yankees need a little bit of help. And one rival evaluator said it's possible that the Yankees could go with what they currently have now, or they could actually do something with Trent Grisham, or, that's right, because they have retained him, to play alongside Judge in right field. But that would mean a full commitment from a 22-year-old Jason Dominguez. And I think Jason Dominguez is a hell of a player who has yet to declare himself an everyday big league player. And I don't really know if that's going to be the guy. So you can also say maybe Spencer Jones slips in there. Who knows? Maybe Cody Bellinger. What's going to happen there? But moving in that direction of very young players, given how important guys like Bellinger are, does that mean his days are numbered? I think Bellinger is a must-keep for the Yankees. Guy's got a great glove, a great arm. He hits a bunch of home runs anyway, and the guy hits base hits and doubles and whatnot when it matters. Or do they go after Kyle Tucker, which makes the most sense? Kyle Tucker certainly would look good in Yankee pinstripes, and we'll see what happens there. Remember, the Tigers need hitting, and of course, the Cubs, what do they need? I don't know. They need to get their front office straight because they're going to lose players left, right, and center. If they go after pitching, it just seems like they're just saying we don't need to hit the ball either. We're just going to pitch our way through. The Dodgers, what do they need? People say they need bullpen. I don't think they need bullpen. I don't think the Dodgers need anything. In fact, what they do need to do is get rid of the glut of mediocre pitchers in the bullpen, which Vesia and Treinen, and there's a couple other guys they don't need in there. You've got Kopech and you've got Sasaki. You've got a great 1-2 punch in the bullpen for the Dodgers. What more do you need? And that's how you get to look at this, folks. Look, there's a lot of spending out there. Some teams will overspend, and they'll go out and get players because the other teams are going to get them. And when you look at the catchers out there, you've got essentially Realmuto, and I would argue, who else is out there? Geez, Reese McGuire now. I like Mitch Garver. I think Mitch Garver is a reasonable catcher. First base is Pete Alonso, Ryan O'Hearn, and Luis Ariz. I can't believe he's even a free agent. And that's basically it. Second base, who do you have? Willie Castro, Jorge Polanco, and Jose Iglesias. And that's pretty much it. Maybe Rengifo with the Angels. Shortstop, Miguel Rojas did sign the deal with the Dodgers, but Bo Bichette is the guy. Kiner Falefa is another guy that's out there. And I don't even know how Tim Anderson's on the list. Also, third base, Bregman, Eugenio Suarez, who just basically hit his way into an enormous contract at age 34. Paul DeJong, decent player. And Kike Hernandez will probably retire a Dodger. And that's basically it for third base. Left fielders, you got Russ Snyder. He's 32. He's getting up there. Again, Suarez does qualify. And Kike is in there too. And I would not put John Birdie in the conversation because he has been reduced to part-time work. Anyway, left fielders, Miguel Andujar, Austin Hayes, Jesse Winker, forget it. Michael Conforto, meh. Tommy Pham, get way too old. Center fielders, what matters is the center fielder, Cody Bellinger. He's only 30. You got to get this kid playing. Harrison Bader is a gamer, and Harrison Bader is going to make any team better wherever he's at. I would say the A's will probably re-sign Blade, and I would also look for Alexander Canario to re-sign too. In right field, it's Tucker and Tauchman and everybody else. Well, Starling Marte is getting really old, but Lane Thomas also a decent player, but Adolis Garcia, you never know which one of him is going to show up. Jason Hayward, I can't believe he's still playing at 36, but Tucker is the guy in right fielder. That's basically what it looks like. For DH, it's Schwarber, Ozuna, and then everybody else. Starting pitching, Framber Valdez, Ranger Suarez, and I think that's basically Zach Gallen, if he could retain his form. Other than that, forget it. All right, we're out of time here on the Circus. That's it for baseball. We'll see you in 23 hours right here on your favorite station. Until then, so long, everyone.
Owning great property is almost impossible these days. At least, that's what people keep saying. They don't know about National Premier Properties. Do you have $350 or a credit card? You can own a great piece of property in a resort community. National Premier Properties has over 51 years of experience helping people just like you purchase amazing properties across the U.S. and in Mexico, Canada, the Bahamas. It takes less than 5 minutes to turn your dream into reality. Visit nationalpremierproperties.com and make it happen now.
Why pay retail for your next car? Just visit beepinautos.com to find your new-to-you car or truck. They find cars for people, even when cars are hard to find. So just go to beepinautos.com and click on Find Me a Car, and they find your perfect car on the wholesale market. Beepinautos.com. They're a car concierge. Beepinautos.com. BEEPIN autos.com. Beepinautos.com. Now you have a friend in the car business when you need it most. Trusted since 2013. Just click Find Me a Car at beepinautos.com.